And welcome to Lake Hume. I'm on the Victoria New South Wales border here, and it's this man-made dam here that's been blocked with water and filled up all the valleys under the rolling hills here, and it's created all these dead trees sticking up out of the water. So I'm at the very edge, the very top end of the dam here, so it's kind of these like rivulets and rivers running up through the hillsides here, and it's quite nice. It's kind of like snaking through the valleys here, creating these nice channels where the water is. And because we've had a decent amount of rain recently, the grass underneath is really nice and lush and green. And then you've got these dead stickly trees, these skeleton trees sticking up out of the landscape. So I'm at the very edge here at the moment, and what I'm planning to do is I'm going to drive around the rim of the lake here and just look for interesting compositions of just trees sticking out of the water. There's thousands, if not way more, trees. That's a fly. I apologize. I don't know what to do after that. Where were we? There's these old stickly skeleton trees sticking up out of the water, and so for compositions I'm kind of just scouting around the edge of the lake here, looking for different interesting shapes and single trees or clusters of trees that might make for an interesting kind of minimalist photo on sunset and then sunrise tomorrow. We're still about 3.5 hours before sunset, so it gives me plenty of time to scope out locations. And what I've done beforehand is jump onto Google Maps using the satellite view. It's just top down, just a bird's eye view, but having a look you can see where the shape of the lake is, and in the lake you can kind of see like trees spiraling out of the water surface. You can't see their shape from side on, but top down you can see that there's a tree there. So what I've done on Google Maps is I've mapped out various viewpoints where I think there could be a photo. The chances of it actually being a photo are probably 10-20%, because I don't know what it looks like on the ground. I don't know if there's going to be a fence in the way. I don't know if I'll be able to walk out onto the mud flats. The water level's quite high at the moment, but if it was lower, you could kind of like walk out into the lake, whereas here I'm kind of restricted. I've got to shoot from the edge of the lake, so I don't know how close to the trees I can get. I also don't know what's going to really be behind it. There are going to be man-made power lines behind it. Most of my photos are in nature, in the coast, in the mountains, in the forest. So this is a bit more of a man-made nature shot, and I haven't really done too many of those. So it's a bit of a different thing for me to experiment with and work around those other limitations around fences, power lines, telephone towers, whatever it might be. So I've given myself plenty of time this afternoon to come out here and drive around the lake and just scope out different potential spots for sunrise and sunset. So about 3 hours until sunset, so I'm going to keep on driving, have a look and check out a few locations for later, and then if they turn out all right, I'll sort of camp there and wait there for sunset, and also start to plan where I might go for sunrise tomorrow. Because it's going to be pitch black before sunrise, I don't know where the nice trees are going to be, so I need to try to find those now in the daytime, so that in the morning tomorrow I can return 40 minutes before sunrise and get those shots and know where my angle is, know where my composition is going to be. So I'm going to keep on going, keep on scouting out a few different locations for those tree skeletons, and see how we go. Well, I've been driving around for the last 2 hours and I've just found a sunset location for tomorrow morning. It's kind of open sky behind here with the rolling hills and these nice sort of skeleton trees sticking up out of the lake. And I've sort of come across about 10 different locations that I've scouted throughout the afternoon and kind of walked down to the riverside here or lakeside and just scouted it out. And there's been a couple of nice ones, but they haven't quite been right. Either the trees have been too far away, or when the trees have been close to the shore, they haven't quite been a nice, I guess, pleasing shape, kind of a bit more jagged and chaotic, or there's too many, or there's only one. So there's quite a balance I'm trying to strike here. There's some nice formations in the trees, but it's not too busy. If there's too many limbs coming out, it's quite chaotic and messy. And at the same time, a single tree could look nice, and I'm thinking that's where I might go back for sunset tonight. I've still got about 90 minutes before the sun actually sets. But I've scouted a few locations on the way to this point. So I'll come back here for sunrise tomorrow, and I'll keep driving back around the way I came to sort of finalise a sunset location looking back west. And there's a chance we might get a moonrise as well. It's meant to be a full moon, so as the sun is setting, the moon's meant to be rising on the opposite horizon. And there's got these hills on the far side of the lake, so I don't know if those hills are going to be high enough that they're going to block the moon. I might need to find somewhere on this lake where the lake is wide enough that the hills don't appear as big in the frame, so the moon can kind of rise up above and still light up the scene while the setting sun is lighting it up from the other side, getting that nice sort of blue soft even light back onto the tree that way. So yeah, got about 90 minutes before the sun actually dips below the horizon out to the west. So I'll save this spot for sunrise. There's meant to be a bit of sort of high cloud around, so that might light up in the morning, tomorrow morning, but I'll keep going back around this lake and see if I can lock in a sunset spot and then settle in for the moonrise as well. So fingers crossed, and we'll keep on going. Well, this is alright, isn't it? I don't know if you can see the moon behind me somewhere. I can't see what I'm seeing, but hopefully you can see that big dot in the sky. I'm actually facing east, not west for sunset, which kind of goes against intuition, but the light high clouds here just getting colour all the way across the horizon here. So I've set up with this single lone tree. This is what I've been looking for all afternoon. I found this sort of headland out here out on the lake, which is facing this tree, and I've used an app called Photo Pills to help align where the moon is going to rise. What it does is it overlays what your camera sees, and using the app you can kind of swipe through the time to see where the moon is going to rise at moonrise and half an hour after moonrise, and see its path through the sky. The moon rose exactly where I want it, just over those hills there, and I've got set up on my telephoto lens here, zooming in on the moon at about 120 mil, so just focusing on that tree and then kind of positioning the moon in the V of the tree there. And what I'm doing, I'm actually got my gumboots here in the water, stomping in the water, creating some ripples through the scene. But because I'm shooting with a telephoto lens, it's really hard to get focus from front to back. So I'm trying to focus stack about 5 different exposures, focusing at 7 meters, 10 meters, 15 meters, 20 meters, kind of up through the tree, and then hoping I'll be able to blend that later in Photoshop if that works out okay. So yeah, quite a nice little evening out here. I'll take a few more shots and then get some sleep and get up early for sunrise tomorrow at that location I had a look at. But if this moonshot turns out all right, I'll show you now. Good morning. We're out here at that sunrise location that I scoped out yesterday, just down by the lakeside here. And as expected, the sky is catching a light. There's this sort of neon pink glow coming up over the clouds. I got out here about 40 minutes before sunrise, and even then that colour and richness in the sky was already coming through out of that eastern horizon. So I've got set up down here by the lake, and I'm using my wide angle lens, whereas last night I used my telephoto to get in close to the rising moon and kind of focus on that one tree. Here I've gone for my wide angle, and I found a nice sort of collection of trees, but I've still found this one prominent tree kind of near the center right of the frame. So it's kind of my key subject in the photo that's kind of anchoring it all together. But there's enough other sort of skeleton trees to the left and right to help show the context of the scene. And as the sun's starting to rise, we're getting more color in the sky. Because there's those hills on the eastern horizon, I can't see if there's a full gap below the clouds. Normally for my seascape sunrises, I can see if there's a gap on the horizon, then that morning sun's going to rise up through the gap and then light up the clouds above it. Whereas here I don't actually have that visibility through, so I'm kind of hoping that there's still going to be a gap and it might not be blocked later. It still might be. If it is, so be it. But I think that's one of the key points that I've learned this trip, and then I want to share with you, is give yourself time in photography. I know it's such a simple concept, but just give yourself time to scope a location. And check out various vantage points. Give yourself time to plan and prepare and see which angles and sites you might want to visit. So using this trip as an example, I used Google Maps to sort of scope out 10, 12 different spots that had potential for a photo. Now, they all didn't work out, probably only 2 or 3 that were usable, but then give yourself time before sunset to scope those out. Don't go rushing 20 minutes before sunset in the car and rushing with your bag, running down on location. I know I've done that before and it's not fun. So give yourself that freedom to explore at leisure and scope out different compositions, different angles. How might this look at sunset, at sunrise? And once you've kind of had time to explore and plan, then still arrive early and look out for any other angles that you might use or different bits for composition or foreground that might lead in, because when you're rushing, you're kind of just drawn to the single most prominent object in the scene. Whereas when you have that sort of that freedom of time again, you can actually be a bit more sort of creative and open-minded and see what other opportunities are out there. Well, we got a little bit of colour, which was nice. Didn't quite as explode as I was expecting or hoping, but I think that just shows why you need to get here early, because that early light was really 30-40 minutes before the actual sunrise. I think once the sun started to rise in the sky, there was a little bit too much of this sort of mid to high cloud around that was blocking that light when the sun was a bit higher in the sky. So got a few nice shots before, and then as the sun sort of rose, kind of like different patches of the sky were lighting up. So I moved my camera around the foreshore and got some different angles around there as well. So not a bad little session out here. Can't complain. It was a nice little moonrise last night and then a bit of colour this morning, which was always good. So yeah, I think I'll be back here for some astro as well. I found out some nice trees on the foreshore that can look up to the Milky Way sky. So pencil those in for later in the astro season. But yeah, so thanks for coming along for this ride, and until next time, take care.